Well, if you were alive and old enough to remember television in 1983, then you no doubt remember Jim O'Brien there. As we showed you here yesterday, he was a legend on Channel 6. His life, though, cut short by a tragic skydiving accident 30 years ago. To many of you, he remains an unforgettable and a towering figure. The same is true for his daughter, Perry, and for our very own Jim Gardner, both of whom remember him in an even more personal way. For an entire generation of Philadelphians, September 25th, 1983 is a date that won't be forgotten. As the newspaper headlines declared in bold-faced type, it's the day this city lost a legend. And word of Jim O'Brien's untimely death hit hard. Viewers looked to Jim Gardner, O'Brien's friend and colleague, to try to make sense of it.
And what is now painful grief will become a series of wonderful memories.
What we tried to do as best we could was to tell what happened and to unavoidably convey our feelings. And it was unavoidable because most of us were crying.
When he passed away, it became really clear how popular he was there.
At the time, O'Brien's daughter, Perry Gilpin, was living in Texas. She was aware, of course, that her father was famous here. But as she tells us, for the very first time, she had no idea just how many lives he'd touched.
Jim put his heart and soul into his job every time that red light went on.
To see a city mourning your dad, you know, it's pretty overwhelming. And but what I loved about it was everyone expressed themselves so beautifully.
A fitting tribute to a man whose own expressions remain the stuff of legend in this town.
A place called Prescott, Arizona, not far from the Putrefied Forest. 10 inches of rain in 24 hours.
Perry's clearest memories of her father take her back to Dallas and Jim's early days as a radio DJ. His studio smack in the middle of a drive-in movie theater.
My mom, my sister, and I would go and watch him do his show from a booth, you know, right there while people were getting their popcorn, you know, so great.
And as she tells it, he relished that role. Maybe that's when the showman in Jim O'Brien was born. But something else, something deeper, came first.
He started out as a theologian. He was a pastor. I was born when he was at Baylor University, and he wanted to be a pastor, but I think that there was something about people he needed to connect.
And connect he did, though his career took a different path. Famous in her own right for her role as Roz on the sitcom Frasier, it's not lost on Perry that her dad's legacy would seep into her own career.
His best friend called me up and said, "I can't believe you're sitting in a radio station with earphones on your head. Oh my God."
The apple did not fall far from the tree. As Perry says, Jim O'Brien bloomed where he was planted.
He was inspirational to so many people and so supportive to so many people who go on to talk about him, and that's a successful life.
He taught me so many valuable lessons, and I think he made the kind of impact on an audience that comes around once in a couple of generations.
We're very proud of him, and we're glad you're proud of him too.
You know, Jim talks about that impact that he made, and of course we all mentioned yesterday that we continue to hear about it week in and week out. And one of the wonderful things about putting this story together is the sort of stories that you've been telling us on our Facebook page. So I encourage you, I'll be putting these stories, both of them, on my Facebook page just as soon as this newscast is over. Go there, share your stories with each other, and share those stories for a generation of people that are only meeting Jim O'Brien now through this tribute to him 30 years later.
And what a gift to have his daughter and Jim. Tell us something about a man that we never got an opportunity to meet.
Actually meet, you know, and the social media now, it's a great outlet for folks to tell them their stories, for us to read as well.
We're seeing that happen.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Jim O'Brien would have some colorful words to say about the weather that we're going to deal with overnight tonight and during the day tomorrow. I will refrain and just say it's going to be yucky as we take a look at Double Scan live right now around the region.